All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited about this one because it's almost been a frequent spot for us here on Sportswire Radio, and we are once again speaking about our very good friends over at Wrestling Championship Entertainment. And boy, it is a very, very busy time if you are a fan of Wrestling Championship Entertainment because just a little short while ago, we got the brand new on YouTube with the Wrestling Championship Entertainment page, Spirit in the Sky, and a lot to get into with that. We're also looking forward to some of the company's bigger shows ahead, Blaze of Glory Day 1 and 2. And we're going to get into that with three of my guys, of course, for the third time here. Round 3 gets better and better each time with him. That is the reigning, defending, longest reigning Universal Grand Slam Wisconsinite champion. That is Kraven Rage. And then with us, the number one contender right now to that Interstate Openweight Championship. His name is Nicholas Crenson. He was the Spirit in the Sky 10-man Rumble winner at the last show a few weeks ago. And, of course, the man of the hour. He is our reigning, defending Interstate Openweight champion. He is the ruler. Listen, Kraven, you might be the ruler of the yard, but the ruler of Wrestling Championship Entertainment right now could be James Marshall. So, with further ado here on the Sports Report, number one, Lamos Macho, pro wrestling stars here from Wrestling Championship Entertainment. That is Kraven Rage and Nicholas Crenson, and the Interstate Openweight Champion of Wrestling Championship Entertainment. That is James Marshall. Gentlemen, how are we tonight?
We're doing good. I'm doing good.
Excellent.
All right. Well, certainly, I'm assuming that Kraven feels the same way. So, obviously, excited
Wonderful.
about this.
Awesome.
Well, I feel like that I kind of just walked into that one here, but certainly be that as it may. Obviously, a lot to get into here when it comes to our friends over at Wrestling Championship Entertainment. And we'll get into, obviously, the rematch here between James Marshall and Nicholas Crenson in a second. We'll also, once again, talk about Kraven Rage and Tyler Ark, and obviously, one more time, talk about September the 10th. But, I mean, obviously, Spirit in the Sky just came out literally on the Wrestling Championship Entertainment YouTube page. And if you haven't, please go to WCEHeat.com for more information. And I'll go with, once again, our friend Kraven Rage here. And Kraven, set the tables for us on what we can expect coming up here at Spirit in the Sky for everybody to go watch on our YouTube page over at Wrestling Championship Entertainment.
Well, at Spirit in the Sky, you will see a lot of hard-hitting action that took place that day. You know, Nicholas Crenson walked out there. He did his job. He had an opportunity. He seized the moment. Congratulations to Nicholas Crenson. He did a wonderful job in that Rumble.
Thank you.
He
But-
absolutely did it. And you, by the way, also had another win once again against Big Train, which I know we spoke about here in the past.
Yeah, Big Train, he came out big, but
Yeah, I would think, right? Because his name's Big Train.
he fell when he stepped in my yard.
Well, you're the ruler. You're the ruler of the yard.
He stepped up against a locomotive that was way bigger than him, and I made him fall, just like I always do to everybody else.
I think the Queen song, another one bites the dust here, would certainly be poetic here. But I'll come to the champ in a second here for James Marshall. But Nicholas Crenson, obviously, you had a huge, huge statement that you made at Spirit in the Sky. And for those that are going to get a chance to watch this, like myself, after we're off the air, I mean, this is where, you were able to now get yourself back in the driver's seat to where you're chasing that ultimate goal you have of Mr. Marshall's belt around his shoulders. I mean, so talk about that Rumble win and how big it was for you.
So that Rumble win was very big for me because, yes, it meant I got an interstate championship shot, but more importantly, it meant I get to have another match with James Marshall. Because, there are 3 people in WCE right now that I say you wrestle if you want to prove you can hang with the best, and there's 3 people you wrestle if you want to have the best match on the show. And those 3 people are Sean Jovi, Craven Rage, and James Marshall. And James Marshall's on the top of that list. Because James, while I may not like you in certain aspects, I respect you and I think you are the best wrestler in WCE. You are the top guy. And the reason why I picked an Iron Man match is simple. I wanted to be able to kick your ass for as long as humanly possible. Because, I'll go into this right now. As great as winning the Rumble was, honestly, you go back and watch that show, the match that stole the show was James's match with Kodak Kid. Because if anybody in WCE is the person you face, if you want to know if you can hang, it is James.
Well, he's got that title on his waist right now and shoulders, and I want to give a shout-out, obviously, to Adonis Felios, who's tuned in here. He says, WCE, we live. And also want to give a shout-out to Joanne Sinar, because obviously I interviewed her daughter last night on the air here, which would be now morning her time. And as, of course, Shelby Sinar, who's a pretty damn good wrestler in her own right, of course, the UKW Women's Champion, Academy Women's Champion, so general manager there, also does a phenomenal job calling things. She even does some ring work. So I want to give a shout-out to the very lovely Joanne Sinar here. I mean, obviously, certainly want to thank her for tuning in. But let's get to the champion, because you are the big dog here. You are the man right now. Forget about Roman. Forget about John Moxley. He just beat Chris Jericho. And forget about all those guys. Forget about, Josh Alexander in Impact or Jacob Fatu in MLW. The guy right now on top of the mountain is James Marshall. And obviously set the tables for us, champ, because we'll get into your last match. We'll get into all that. But we're having you here for the first time. And talk about, for those that are watching, listening on Sportswire Radio, and the kind of wrestler and the kind of champion you are.
I'm the kind of guy that wherever I go, I want to put that place at top of the pinnacle. And I'm doing such that for WCE.
Absolutely.
And the kind of wrestler I am, unpredictable. Because you don't know what I'm going to pull out of my bag of tricks. Crenson found out the hard way during Red, White, and Bruised. And he's going to find out more at Blaze of Glory Day 2.
Oh, we're going to definitely find out here, and I'll come back to Kraven Rage in a second, but the champ made a great point here, Nicholas, and I know we spoke about this last week when I had Sean Jovi on as well, and obviously your stipulation that you've picked, I mean, walk me through the thinking here in this, because, I mean, you did 2 out of 3 falls with James Marshall last time you guys in the ring, and now you're going 30-minute Iron Man match? I mean, you've got to tell us here, for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, I mean, why?
Okay, so a little caveat to that. It's not just a 30-minute Iron Man match. This match must have a winner. It's not going to end in a draw. If we go the
we don't want to see WrestleMania 12 where we get 5 more minutes of overtime, and
if we end up that way, though, we are going to have a sudden death overtime, because there needs to be a winner in this. Now, I could have picked the match that I am undefeated in, like a last man standing match. James knows that because he was one of the people that I beat in that match. But I wanted a match that would last as long as humanly possible, because James, I understand why you decided to attack me. You need to make your impact when you got back, and that's fine. Like I said, that I don't mind. It's when you chose to do it. See, that's when I was just getting over grieving the loss of my mother. You know, just really letting it sink in that both my parents were gone. And that is where I kind of have still have that hatred for you. I still like you. I still respect you. I still have a little bit of hatred for you for that, because you took away my chance to grieve. But that's fine. That's water on the bridge now. But I'm still going to get my chance to kick your ass for 30 minutes. See, the belt in this situation is a secondary prize. It's a big prize, but for me, it's a secondary prize. The real juicy, meaty prize I'm getting is you in the ring for at least 30 minutes, and not just any Iron Man match. There's no rules to this. And I know I know your Pegatrix is always unpredictable. You're like Deadpool with his magic satchel. You never know what you're gonna pull out. But so am I. See, that's where when we face off, we make beautiful violence together. Because, like I said, you, James Marshall, you are one of the few people that can bring out the best in me. I'm one of the few people that bring out the best of you. We are also the same people who can bring out the best and worst in each other. And it's a perfect storm. A perfect storm of violence.
Mhm.
And I also want to make sure that I get into some more comments. She appreciates some of the kind words. But let me get to the champ, because there's a lot that Nicholas Crenson said there, and I want to get the champ's response. I'll come back to Kraven in a second. I really will. But, I mean, champ, James Marshall, I heard a lot there from Nicholas Crenson just now. I mean, you care to respond to some of those things?
Yeah, you're right, Crenson. The timing of when I came back and I attacked you is a little bit ill, but I had to make my point. And you're right also about another thing. We make beautiful violence together. And it is the perfect storm, and nobody wants to get caught in that little maelstrom of violence that we're going to create. And
Interesting.
yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well, certainly we're digesting a lot here from the champion. I mean, Kraven Rage, I mean, I know we asked you about this, but I mean, what is Nicholas Crenson thinking here? I mean, you got to be from afar watching this, and I mean, what's your reactions to all this here?
Like I said, Nicholas Crenson called himself the Psycho Wolf, so he's psycho. He loves these type of matches. You know, he wants to do something psychotic. He wants to hurt people.
But there comes a certain point here, though. There does come a certain point because, listen, you might be the Psycho Wolf, Nicholas Crenson. Your obviously resume speaks for itself. You won the Rumble, but you've been in the war with this man before. And you've been there before. But an Iron Man match is a different game. I mean, it's a different animal. I mean, I remember years back, WrestleMania 12, and they showed Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels getting ready for that training package, for that Iron Man match. It was different, unlike anything you've ever seen before. I mean, an Iron Man match in terms of the shape you got to be in, the condition, the overall training, all of that. I mean, I look at James Marshall right now, and he's at the peak of his game right now. He's in his prime. I mean, Nicholas Crenson, you've got to talk about, for those who are watching and listening on Sportswire Radio, I mean, how are you preparing for something like this? You might be the Psycho Wolf, but this is an Iron Man match. I mean, my friend, talk about that.
So, basically, I'm going to the gym, working out every now and then, doing cardio. But also, like, the other reason, like, this goes into another reason why I chose that length of time for a match, is because our match at Red, White, and Bruised is right now the longest match in WCE history. And that was 21 minutes and 30 seconds.
I was going to say, I thought that it was about, what, 20-ish minutes from when I watched it from YouTube, right? 20, at least over 20 minutes.
Yeah, like the second longest match, but, I wasn't in it for the full match. It was the Rumble that we just did. And then it goes on to James and Jonathan Pierce and that lovely Ring of Destruction Career Suicide match they did.
Yeah, but it's still an Iron Man match. I mean, it's still an Iron Man match. And let me give a shout out to my very good friend, Mr. John Gonzalez. And John loves wrestling, by the way. He is the man behind the Sports Authorities group, and they allow us to share our interviews here with our friends over at Wrestling Championship Entertainment. And if you are on Sportswire Radio and you are on Facebook, or if you're not on Facebook, I still highly encourage that you go to the Sports Authorities on Facebook, sign up to be a part of John's group, because you will get pretty much everything in the world of sports, and especially loads of wrestling coverage. And John chimes in here and says, let's rumble and a duel for the age. Yeah, I'm excited about this. I got to be honest, between our double main event, September 10th, it's got WrestleMania 12 vibes to it. There's no question, because you think about Kraven Rage and Sean Jovi. That war that has been going on for a long time. We've got Marshall and Crenson. It almost reminds me of Undertaker and Diesel and Shawn Michaels and Brett, that double main event. The rest of the card, man, I don't know. But Wrestling Championship Entertainment's card, the rest of it, Blaze of Glory Day 1 and 2, it's going to be 10 times better than WrestleMania, 12 times better than SummerSlam, 15 times better than anything else you're going to watch. That's how I'm excited about this here. But, I mean, let's come back here. And for you, James Marshall, I heard about Nicholas Crenson, the Psycho Wolf, how he's going to train. Now, don't tell us everything exactly what you're going to do, but, I mean, for you in preparing for an Iron Man match, I mean, we've talked about the fact the longest-running match in the company's history is basically your match that we just saw 2 out of 3 falls, which is about 21, 22 minutes even tops, right? I mean, so what are you doing then to prepare for a match like this, considering the fact our longest match in the company's history is the one you guys just had last month for a little over 20 minutes?
Well, I know Nicholas Crenson has some tricks up his sleeve, but I know him. I know this individual. He's going to have something planned. And there's no need to watch any tapes of his old stuff, but looking forward to the future. That also gives me time to actually make tricks of my own.
But don't tell us those tricks. Let me just say, don't tell us those tricks. Because then it's not a trick anymore, right? Because the whole point of a trick is obviously nobody knows about it. So obviously, for everybody involved, don't tell us the tricks here. And of course, Mr. Felio says David versus Goliath. But is it really David versus Goliath? I don't think it's that far. I mean, you, Kraven Rage, jump in because I saw you nodding your head automatically. I mean, talk for us here, champ.
I don't think it's David versus Goliath. I just think it's you got the unhinged James Marshall going against the Psycho Wolf, Nicholas Crenson. But my odds is on our partner, James Marshall.
Why is your odds on him?
Because he's unhinged. And he's gonna beat Nicholas Crenson ass all over in day 2. That Iron Man match, it might go up and down. Nicholas might get a couple pins in. I say about 3, but James is gonna blow him out the water.
More, obviously, right? He's
gonna double Nicholas Crenson pins. So James Marshall is gonna come on top no matter what.
Let me ask you this question, Kraven Rage, and maybe this is for the guys here in a general sense, and maybe some in the locker room that will catch this while we're watching Spirit in the Sky after we get off the air here. But what advice would you give to a James Marshall and even a Nicholas Crenson to be prepared endurance-wise for a match like this? What would your advice be?
They got to pace themselves. They have to pace themselves. They have to take their time. They can't rush it, because they're going to get winded, especially if they're not in shape. If they're not in total shape for it, an Iron Man match, it will take a toll on you.
Oh, listen, I remember hearing Bret Hart talk about after he wrestled the Iron Man match with Shawn Michaels, and he talked about the fact just on how long that he had to get ready for that match, and also in terms of just how much that took out of him in terms of the match. So when you think about an Iron Man match, again, I still remember it yesterday watching WrestleMania 12. I know this is half of the time, but it's still a lot, because you even think about a wrestling match at 10 minutes in the ring. Well, 10 minutes in life doesn't sound long, but 10 minutes in a wrestling ring even is a lot longer than people think. So, I mean, those are certainly some things here. And, of course, Adonis Felio says be one step ahead. Well, duh. I mean, thanks, Captain Obvious. I mean, that's the whole point, right? I mean, everybody has to be one step ahead. I mean, well, gee, I mean, that's the whole point of the outcome of a match here. But, I mean, I want to come back to Nicholas Crenson. And obviously, Nicholas, I do want to send my condolences on behalf of everybody on Sportswire Radio on the loss of your mother. I know how difficult that would certainly be. And obviously, everybody here on the station, everybody listening and watching certainly also pays our respects to you. But do you feel like in a way, and I hate to do this in a sense, but do you feel like you have more incentive going into this match because you might be fighting on a more personal level, and how much this might mean not only to you but your entire family? Is that something that's fair to ask or fair to even think about?
Actually, yes, it is perfectly fair to ask, because honestly, I have so much invested into this. It's not just on a personal level; it's family-wise. Because my family kind of hit or miss. Support me, didn't support me at times, but they let me do what I needed to do to be happy. But more, it's when the whole concept of the Rumble happened, and they said it was for the interstate. I was glad because Kraven, you are an amazing champion, but James Marshall is the champion I want to face. James Marshall is the champion I want to face because that's the title that means the most to me. That title indicates that whoever holds it is the top dog in the company. And the reason I want that title and I want to take it from James is simply because I want to win it from the best wrestler in WCE, and that is James Marshall, bar none. You can call yourself the ruler of the yard, Kraven, and you are an amazing wrestler. But when it comes to being in-ring general, being in-ring the best pound-for-pound wrestler in WCE, I have to give it to Mr. Marshall there because, James, you are the top. And I've known you since 2012, and we've faced each other multiple times since 2012. And I know I can beat you. You know I can beat you. The only thing is, and this is where the catch-22 comes in, is I have to be able to be better than you by the end of 30 minutes. Can I do it? We'll have to see. But I know I'm going to put you through hell.
Let me ask you a follow-up question before I get back to James Marshall, who, by the way, is our reigning defending WCE Interstate Openweight Champion. Certainly, he has got the most premier prize in all of sports. I don't care if it's Universal Champion, AEW Champion, MLW Champion, Impact Champion, NWA. They mean nothing to that prize right there. They mean nothing. That is the most prestigious belt in all of sports. Look at that championship, ladies. But we'll come back to him in a second. But you said something, Nicholas, and tell me your thoughts on this because I want to get Craven's thought on it. Could you have actually taken, from what you just said, the easier route and gone for Craven Rage and said, you know what? All right, I'm going to take his time. I'm going to try and take his shot because you did say that you could have went for Craven's belt, but you
No,
chose once again going in there with James Marshall. So talk to me about what you just said.
no. So once it was floated around, the original idea of the Rumble was somebody picked their shot.
Right.
But they decided the interstate. I really, honestly, as much as I do want to face Kraven again because I want that rematch at some point down the line, honestly, right now going after James is I want to face the best wrestler in WCE, and that is James Marshall.
Okay. All right. I mean, that's certainly fair here. And Mr. Felios chimes in here and says 30 minutes going the distance. Yeah, well, obviously, it is going to go the distance because they call it an Ironman match. But I want to ask you a broader question, James Marshall. And I know I've asked Kraven this question here in the past when he came on the first time, but what does it mean to you to be the WCE Interstate Openweight Champion?
Not only does it mean that I'm the top dog of WCE, the company, I'm also the face of the company. I need to represent. Also, representing, yeah. Yeah. My goal
Okay.
is to actually take WCE into higher places. We're skyrocketing right now, and I want to keep the train going, keep climbing that ladder. Because right now we're at 131 subscribers, somewhere around that area. We're getting there. Yeah. And I want to put on the best matches possible and try to boost those numbers while being interstate openweight champion.
Where would you like to see the company go?
Hopefully, get into venues, put on great shows in front of a bigger live crowd.
All right.
Take this,
And,
take this from a town to a region, no, country. Not to shoot too high, but hey,
all right, well, I'll tell you what. I mean, certainly Wrestling Championship Entertainment is definitely on its way. And speaking of people who are here, and that is Mr. Tyler Ark, and certainly Tyler Ark, never a man who minces his words. And Kraven Rage, you want to say anything to Tyler Ark? Because I know you and him are going to be part of our double main event coming up here in a few short weeks. And anything you want to say to Mr. Ark in particular?
Sure. Tyler Ark, I know you out there. I know you watching this right now. When you step in my yard, August 27th, this is going to be your worst nightmare because I'm going to beat your ass so fucking bad that you're going to wish that you never claim this is your show, because you got to remember, this is my yard. So your Tyler Ark show is trash to me, and I'm going to destroy it and burn it down.
And I'll tell you what, that RKO off the top rope, certainly, I don't know who's getting past you in your yard after some moves like that there, Mr. Kraven Rage. So Tyler Ark, I don't know if he knows what he's in for, but we are here on Sportswire Radio right now, speaking with our very good friends from Wrestling Championship Entertainment. That is our reigning, defending Universal Grand Slam Wisconsinite champion. His name is Kraven Rage, who, by the way, is coming up on 100 days out. Just about, 100 days as champion, give or take. So we're certainly coming up and moving up the ranks. He's the longest reigning champion in the company's history. And, of course, our man of the hour, also the #1 contender right now to the Interstate Openweight Championship, the Spirit in the Sky Rumble winner. And his name is the Psycho Wolf, Nicholas Crenson. And alongside us here, the main event, the reason why everybody has made WCE the #1 company in all of professional wrestling. And, of course, that is our reigning, defending Interstate Openweight champion. His name is James Marshall. I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager here of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Brice. And if you do like what you hear from us on Facebook, I highly encourage you to give us a like on Sportswire Radio, at Sportswire Radio. And coming up to almost 500 followers now. So people seem like they're following left and right. I get messages from people from all over the world. So I want to thank everybody for all of the support. I really appreciate that. And, of course, if you also like what you hear from us on Sportswire Radio, I highly encourage you to go to sportnarium.com/player, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, you can listen to all of our great content. We'll be back on Thursday, tomorrow, 8 p.m. British Standard Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, with the unforgettable Andre Decker, and he is going to have a lot to say. Obviously, he is the muscle man of the group in Odyssey Pro Wrestling called the Spotlight, also the Underclass in KOW. He's a former tag team champion there. He is coming off a huge victory over Big Guns Joe, who you've seen on the WWE Network in the past for Progress Wrestling and some other places. And he had a huge win over him at the Odyssey Pro Wrestling last show. So I'm really looking forward to speaking with the unforgettable Andre Decker, literally about 8 p.m. British Standard Time, 3 p.m. here in all of Sportswire Radio's social media channels. And Tyler Ark says he will walk out as champion. So Kraven Rage, it seems like Mr. Ark, although he can't quite spell correctly, I'm assuming what he means is that he will walk out as our champion, because he put "I am walk hour" as champion. So it sounds like what's that, like when you have like bad like phonics almost? That would be kind of Mr. Ark's point there. But let's come back to Nicholas Crenson, because I obviously feel like, again, Nicholas Crenson, you're kind of on the line here. I mean, obviously, you went and picked a stipulation that, most people wouldn't have said, all right, I'm going to do a 30-man Iron Man match. Most people, again, company's history, longest match is 21 minutes. So, I mean, do you watch tape for something like this? Do you go back and watch Flair Steamboat? Do you go back and watch WrestleMania 12? I mean, I know you've talked about the fact you've wrestled Marshall in the past, but walk me through, do you watch prior Iron Man matches?
Honestly, yes and no. Mm-hmm. Like, the matches I study, when I study wrestling, I don't study matches like Brett and Shawn or Flair and Steve-O. I have seen those matches, and those are great matches. No, I study matches like Misawa and Kawada, Kobashi and Kawada, Kobashi and Misawa, Akiyama and Kobashi. I study matches like Minoru Suzuki and Hiroshi Tanahashi, like Tetsuya Naito and Kota Ibushi. I study matches like Walter and Zack Sabre Jr. I study I'll say this by far, Flair, Steamboat, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, all great workers. None of them, as great as they were, the greatest in-ring workers of all time, Misawa, Kobashi, Tanahashi, Kawada, and Akiyama. Those 5 men epitomize what it means to be a technical wrestler, what it means to be the best in the ring work. And if you're going to study you want to be the best in the ring, you need to study those guys. You need to study guys like Okada. You need to study, and I think it might burn somebody like Jim Cornette's bridges by saying this, but one of the best in ring workers in the world is Kenny Omega.
Well, when you mentioned Okada, I knew exactly where you were going with that. Once I heard Okada, I was like, all right, there's certainly you're a student of the game, no question.
Honestly, though, like I'll say this, like another person I study, bar none, is Johnny Gargano, because if you want to be a professional wrestler, watch how Gargano works.
Or we could say we can also study how the Psycho Wolf Nicholas Crenson works, because we are here speaking Wrestling Championship Entertainment, and one of the premier companies in the world we know is Wrestling Championship Entertainment, which, by the way, WCEheat.com for more information.
I could say you could study me, but also I don't like to toot my own horn, because I'll even say I'm not the greatest, I'm not the best, but I'm going to fight my hardest to do what I need to do to win. And even if I can't win, I'm going to put my opponent through absolute hell.
I'm sure. Listen, watching some of your matches, I have no doubt that's going to be the case here. But let's come back to the champion here, James Marshall, because I feel like obviously we got to get the champion here for a second. And I know Tyler Ark has responded saying that he's, going to win. And he says, over my dead body, Kraven Rage is not going to win, and yada, yada, yada. But James Marshall, I almost have to ask you this question because, you talked about where you want to bring Wrestling Championship Entertainment. We've heard your opponent go back and forth, and we've heard different things. But do you feel like every day you wake up that there's a pressure being the champion, and that's something that, you put yourself to a certain standard? Because I feel like when I listen to Crenson speak, he's chasing you. He wants to be where you want to be right now. He wants to be the top guy, but you're the top guy. Do you feel a pressure as a champion to remain in your spot and to go even further with what you're doing right now?
Well, I know holding this belt is having a target on my back. I'm well aware of that. Am I phased by it? Hell no, I'm not. And before every match, I'm laser focused. I go out there, do what I do. Then we see he racks him up, I knock him down. It's like bowling.
Well, that's a good point. I almost feel like I've heard Kraven say something similar along the lines of it. And Adonis Felios wants to remind us, I will still be on my quest to drip in gold. But I got to tell you, Adonis, I'm looking right now at the 3 guys that they're the guys right now when it comes to gold right now. I look at James Marshall, I look at Kraven Rage, and Nicholas Crenson is obviously nipping at the heels at James Marshall. I mean, I don't know how you fit into this, Adonis, because I'm looking at these guys right here, right now. Kraven Rage with his championship, the Grand Slam Universal Wisconsin Championship, and of course our reigning defending Interstate Openweight Championship, James Marshall. I mean, I don't know, guys, how Adonis Felios fits in here. I mean, I just think, I don't know.
He's improving. I have to say that he's improving. He's trying to get up there to run with the big dogs. But every time he step in the ring with any one of us, pretty much he be $1 short every time. So I think he's run out of gold pretty fast.
Oh, I think right now
because he faced me, he tapped. He faced.
I know, we saw it. We spoke about it here on Sportswire Radio the first time you came on.
Excuse me, Mr. Rage. I just gotta chime in there.
Yeah, jump in.
Filios did face me and he did win, but that's also kind of after the whole James Marshall incident happened. And Kraven, you did amazing facing Filius. You made him tap, and actually, I didn't think anybody would make him tap. He did amazing against Jovi, but fell short against Jovi. And Adonis, I'll say this to you: if you face me one-on-one, you might not be so lucky in an actual straight-up match, but you're improving. So maybe at some point you'll find that edge you need to actually be dripping gold. But until then, yeah, I don't see you getting past the ruler of the yard or the unhinged one at all. Until then, I don't see you getting past me. But you got that potential.
Well, he might get past Nicholas Crenson because Nicholas Crenson, I smashed you at Crown and Tube and walked out with this. You're going against my boy, James Marshall, the best. You don't stand a chance. Trust me. I see Sean Jovi don't have your back. That's not a good sign.
He seems to be more having the back of Dark Fire these days rather than the Psycho Wolf Nicholas Crenson. Good point.
He might be a little scared because Sean Jovi watched the match between me and Austin. Tyler Ark, AKK, Man of Massacre. I'm going to massacre him in that ring August 27th. James Marshall, you're a phenomenal champion, brother. Amazing champion. The best. August 27th. According to the GM, our GM. You got your big task against you. Got you a gauntlet match. Don't know who the opponent's going to be, but I know you're going to knock him down and run over him anyway.
Let's talk about that for a second, because Kraven Rage brings up here an excellent point. In day one of Blaze of Glory, we will see James Marshall in a gauntlet match here for his championship. And obviously, Mr. Marshall, I mean, is that something that does concern you? I mean, in terms of who the opponents might be and in a situation like this? Because these are obviously, you see these matches from time to time, and these are always the matches they say, oh, this is where the champ could be his most vulnerable, or the champ could get caught napping here. I mean, when it comes to a gauntlet match like this, does this something that concerns you a little bit here, which we're going to see, obviously, 2 short weeks coming up here from this Saturday?
I have no concern whatsoever on what opponents there will be, because I will overcome those obstacles and remain WCE's Interstate Openweight Champion. I don't care who they choose. It could be that kid again. It could be Dash Andrews. I don't give a damn about his ticket that he has in his possession. It could be Big Train. No internet couldn't against Kraven Rage. Or it could be Adonis Filios. Hell, it could be the bell ringer. It could be the music guy. It could be the I don't care. Bring them all on.
Well, I tell you what, there's a company that we actually do some work with in England. They're called the LWF, and one of their wrestlers, because he wouldn't apologize to the sound person, they actually had him not quite in a match formally, but they wanted him to apologize to the sound person. They wound up kind of having like a sort of a skirmish. So, I mean, anything can happen in particularly in professional wrestling. And Adonis Filios reminds us that get ready for a surprise come Blaze of Glory. Anybody want to speculate on that? I mean, is there something cryptic there, or is just something, or just Adonis is talking with no real substance to it? Is there something to that here, guys?
Adonis is just talking. He's trying to get away, all talk, no actions.
I've heard that word quite a bit in life. All talk, no action. Go ahead, jump in.
All bark and no bite. That's Adonis Filios.
Right. I'm just going to do like this. Like I always say, it's not a spoiler alert. It's an actual fact. James
Okay.
Marshall will come on top of Nicholas Crenson. It's like I said, Nicholas Crenson, right now I'm looking, I don't see your boy Sean Jovi to have your back. James Marshall, of course, you have to look over your shoulder because Kraven Rage can come out of nowhere. Because why? Because me and James Marshall, we run WCE, and there is no one good enough to take us down.
I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, as I continue to say it here on Sportswire Radio, forget about Roman Reigns for a second. Forget about John Moxley, CM Punk, like I said, Jacob Fatu, Josh Alexander, Nick Aldis, you name them in any other company. Forget about them because I'm looking at right now on my screen tonight. Kraven Rage with his championship. And show up that championship for us, champ. Show it again for us for those who are on Sportswire Radio. Look at that championship that he has here. It's one of the most prestige championships in all of wrestling. It's one of the most prestigious championships in the sport. And James Marshall, show up that championship for our audience here because that championship, let me tell you something. That belt, I would want that belt over what Roman's got, over what anybody else has got in all of professional wrestling. It is the most prettiest prize. In fact, I might even say, you know what? Aaron Rodgers wishes he would have that championship. Because you know what? Aaron Rodgers can't deliver our Packers anything big in the postseason, but James Marshall and Kraven Rage, they find ways to deliver for us. They find ways to get the goal. I can only hope that Aaron Rodgers has half the success for our Wisconsin fans when it comes to the upcoming season for our Packers. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, these are the championship belts that you want to have here in professional wrestling. And I cannot stress it again. Wrestling Championship Entertainment. On Facebook, please like that page. Also, again, on YouTube, like that page because Spirit in the Sky has just debuted. It literally debuted just about 6.5 hours ago. So you know what I'm going to be doing here all night after this? Just like Lionel Richie, all night long. Going to be watching all night long Spirit in the Sky and watching our premier wrestlers here, Nicholas Crenson, James Marshall, Kraven Rage. We've got another about 15 or so minutes with the champion. It has been a tremendous honor. And again, I am the host of the Sports Report, the station
I
manager
have to
here.
give Nicholas Crenson credit, though.
Yeah, jump in.
Psycho Wolf, I have to give you one thing credit. You picked the right champion to go after, James Marshall. I got to give you that. You picked the right champion to go after. 30 minutes, it's going to be very beautiful, and it's going to be lots of hell that y'all going to put each other through. But I don't see you overcoming the unhinged James Marshall, though.
I also like to add.
Jump in, Mr. Marshall. Jump in.
My goal for his 30-minute Iron Man No Holds Barred match is to pound you down to the ground for this Crenson and beat you with a shutout.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, I didn't see that one coming. James Marshall, our reigning defending interstate openweight champion, has just said he doesn't even want Nicholas Crenson to get a single pinfall or submission in this match. That is groundbreaking. I mean, Nicholas Crenson, I see your head here banging on the wall on the side. Go ahead and respond. Jump in.
So, first thing to point out something that Kraven mentioned before, Jovi not being here. He doesn't need to be here. He doesn't need to have my back. I don't need his help right now. He doesn't need mine because, I'll just say this. Me and him, we handle this like men. We handle things like men in the ring. And James, that is a bold statement to say, a shutout. Now, it's a lot harder to pull off. You might get it, you might not. Who's to say? But I'm going to kind of say, remember our last match, the 2 out of 3 falls? How did that match start out? Yes, you won, but how did that match start out?
1-1.
Mm-hmm. Now, Kraven, I think you hit the thing that I said. You said I picked the right champion to go after, and yeah, I picked James because he's the best in WCE, but also don't think I haven't forgotten about you. Like I still have a promise to keep, and yeah, I'll see you very soon, buddy. See you very very soon.
Like I said, I smashed you once. I will smash you again. This time, you might not get up. You had to get help to get carried up last time.
I'll tell you what, in the words of the famous John Wick movies, we'll be seeing you. Mr. Wick sounds like certainly what Mr. Crenson will be saying. But I want to come back to Nicholas Crenson as we get ready for closing thoughts here. And again, obviously, again, please go to WCEHeat.com for more information on the company with past events, match results, roster profiles, all that great stuff. And we want to thank everybody here at Wrestling Championship Entertainment. But Nicholas Crenson, I want to ask you this question specifically. And is this the biggest match of your career coming up?
Yes, like bigger than any other title I've won, bigger than any match I've had before. This is the by far the biggest match I've done, and it's a twofold answer to that. Why it's the biggest match, or threefold actually. One, it's an Iron Man match with no rules to it. It's a 30-minute Iron Man match to be specific. Two, it's against one of the best goddamn wrestlers in wrestling today, in Unhinged James Marshall. And three, it is for the WCE Interstate Openweight Championship, the belt that says you are the top guy in WCE. You are the best wrestler in WCE. You know, and I kind of have to say this one last thing. As big as this match is for me, it's amazing. But I'm also going to point out one simple thing is, you take away me, we got another big match that would be here too. And I kind of have this little inkling that I'd like to see that match someday happen again.
Okay, all right. Certainly a lot of words here, and certainly the war of words and the battle lines continue to be drawn here. But I want to come back to Mr. Marshall here as we round up here and round home and get ready for closing thoughts here and such. But Mr. Marshall, I want to give you the floor directly. And is there anything that you want to say toward Nicholas Crenson? Anything you want to say to him a few weeks ahead of the big showdown? Is there any final remarks you have toward him?
Nicholas, going towards this match, you best be on your A game because I'll bring my A plus infinity game just to shut you out, overcome you, and retain this belt. Because there's nothing stopping me, JT, or Kraven Rage from ruling WCE.
All right, those are some, I think, important words, straight to the point, and spoken like a true champion that James Marshall is. And I'm going to come back then to Kraven Rage, and obviously you've heard some different things from Tyler Ark, and you've heard some different things from Adonis Felios, and I'm sure we'll speak more on Sportswire Radio next week. And as we're rounding home here to August 27th, which is crazy as it sounds, guys, just 2 short weeks away. Blaze of Glory Day 1 and Blaze of Glory Day 2 is coming up here right afterwards. We've a great double main event here, and I'm sure we'll speak a lot more about Sean Jovi once again with you, Kraven. But is there anything that you might want to say in particular, and any final remarks, let's say, to your opponent on the 27th and Mr. Tyler Ark?
Tyler Ark, you better be watching. You better be studying. You better be getting yourself ready because you're going to be in a fight. I'm going to be brutal. I'm going to conquer you. I'm going to destroy you. And I'm going to make you say, I quit. Because I'm going to make this match a I quit match. Just to give you a little taste of how it feels to quit Because as a loser, you is, just like your show is a losing failure.
I'll
Sean
tell you
Jovi,
what.
pay attention because I guarantee you this is going to be a brutal match. When I step in the ring with you, we have a history. I told you, you unleashed a rage when you beat me. And now everybody will feel the wrath of Kraven rage. And I have backup. James Marshall, JDT, we dominate. We destroy, we knock people heads off, we carrying gold, we rule this universe, this Fed. This is our Fed. Nicholas Crenson and everybody else in that locker room will fall to us.
I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, the bloodline has nothing on Kraven Rage and James Marshall. The Elite have nothing on Kraven Rage and James Marshall. And Mr. Ark says here, I am going to end your career August 27th and take over Wrestling Championship Entertainment. I don't know. We'll see. Stay tuned for that here. Tyler Ark certainly not mincing words here, but we'll see if those words will actually ring true. Something tells me here, I don't know, but something does tell me, most importantly, to stay tuned to the YouTube page of WCE. But Nicholas Crenson, I'm going to give you the floor before I get to closing thoughts from everybody. I'm going to give you your final thoughts for now when it comes to James Marshall. We've heard conversely what Mr. Marshall has said to you. Now I turn it over to you, my friend, and what would you like to say directly to James Marshall?
James, you say you're planning on bringing an A plus 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 game. I'm bringing my S rank because I am going to put you through hell. And no, I'm not going to guarantee a shout out on you at all because I know better than that. I'm not even guarantee victory. I said I'm going to put you through hell. If I win, great, because I want it. I want it more than you. And Kraven, one last thing before we leave off. I'll see you in the next couple weeks here, because I'll definitely hash things out with you on a personal level. Now, James, are you ready for hell? Because I know I am.
Ready to go to hell and back, friend.
Let's have fun with it then and beat the living hell out of each other.
I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, summer's not over until we get to Blaze of Glory Day 1, Day 2. Forget about starting the NFL season. Forget about SummerSlam. Forget about NFL training camp games. Forget about Field of Dreams that baseball's having tomorrow. Forget about all that stuff here. It's going to be summer until Blaze of Glory Day 1, Day 2. Day 1 is going to be Kraven Rage and Tyler Ark. We're going to see James Marshall, our reigning defending interstate openweight champion, in a gauntlet match. I mean, that is certainly going to be something for a sight. And, of course, the double main event, September 10th, which we're going to be covering much more here on Sportswire. Don't worry, we're going to be covering it each and every week here on Sportswire Radio. Your fix of WCE. They're going to have a double main event for the Universal Grand Slam Wisconsinite Championship. Kraven Rage takes on Sean Jovi. And then for that Iron Man match, whoever wins the most pinfalls or submissions, that 30-minute Iron Man match for that Interstate Open Weight Championship, we will see the unhinged James Marshall against the Psycho Wolf, Nicholas Crenson. Like I said before, these main events, these matches here that you've heard from a Wrestling Championship Entertainment on Sportswire Radio, these are some of the best main events you are going to find in all of professional wrestling. I highly encourage, and it's free. Just subscribe to the YouTube page, WCE Wrestling Championship Entertainment. Facebook, like the page, and also WCEHE.com for more information. So I turn it over to you, Kraven Rage. I want to give you the floor. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything you want to plug, share, say, and I can't thank you enough as always, my friend. I know we'll have you back on here for probably rounds 4, 5, 6, and beyond. It's become a regular thing, and we enjoy it. We love having you. So I turn it over to you, my friend, and anything you want to plug or share, and the floor is yours, and fire away.
First and foremost, I want to thank all the supporters and the followers. Thank you, James Marshall. Thank you, Nicholas Crenson, for coming on this show. It's amazing working with each and one of y'all guys in and out the ring. I want to thank our GM for everything that she has done for WCE. We are growing and we are doing amazing things. And also, I want to thank the Reverend for bringing us on here. We definitely love his honor for bringing us on here. I'm glad you promoting us and supporting us, getting us out there. We have gained a lot of subscribers. So people watching, keep subscribing, keep following us. We are rocking, we rolling. We putting on great shows, great matches, and we doing our best to make Backyard Wrestling Championship Entertainment relevant.
Oh, this is absolutely relevant. This is absolutely wrestling at its finest. Forget about just backyard wrestling, all of wrestling. That's why we love Wrestling Championship Entertainment. In fact, I've mentioned it with some of the wrestlers that have come on here on Sportswire Radio from all over the world. So you guys have definitely got mentioned quite a bit in some of our shows with some different wrestlers out around the world, from our friends over at Nonstop Action Wrestling and GT Ministries and CCW and elsewhere. So we absolutely love WCE here. And yes, Tyler Ark, I will get a chance to watch the video, and we will figure out at some point when to get you on Sportswire Radio. But stay tuned, and we'll figure that out at some point here down the road. But Nicholas Crenson, obviously this was an impactful debut for you. You had a lot to say. You have a lot going on. You are certainly the Psycho Wolf, and they don't call you that for nothing. So I turn it over to you, my friend. I want to give you the floor. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, or say, and fire away, my friend.
I do want to thank, Mr. H and Mr. Marshall, and you, Reverend, for having me on this show. Kraven, I want to thank you for lighting a fire under my butt. James, I want to thank you for pouring gasoline onto that fire. And Reverend, I just want to thank you because you are helping us grow more and more each day. And then finally, one last thing I just want to say is, you mentioned, day two's double main event, since he wasn't able to make it, we also have to kind of give, homage to the big main event for day one, which is Sean Jovi in his 16th anniversary match against his best friend Darkfire.
Mm-hmm.
And those two are going to, there's nothing really on the line for that, just pride and just the sake of wrestling to have a match. And honestly, that's the best kind of reason to do a match. Those two have wanted to wrestle in the ring for ages in one-on-one, and those two, I think, are going to steal the show on August 27th. Just like I know me and James, we're going to make it hard to follow anything we ever do on September 10th.
Absolutely, no question about it. We definitely do want to acknowledge Sean Jovi and, of course, his 16th anniversary match against Darkfire. That is going to be a match that I'm sure we're going to speak a lot about here, maybe before the 27th, but certainly after for sure. So definitely want to acknowledge that. A tremendous accomplishment, 16 years in the business, 16 years in what he's done, and also shout out to him. And also Adonis Felio says, Blaze of Glory, ass whoopings are coming August 20th. I think he's put that like 4 different times I've seen on the stream here. Ass whoopings are coming. So I got the message, and I definitely think that Adonis Felio.
I just have to say about that between Sean Jovi and Darkfire. That's the main event for August 27th. James Marshall, it has been confirmed. We cannot interfere during the match at all. We were barred from ringside.
Wow. A bombshell. We are throwing bombs left and right on Sportswire Radio because our champions can't interfere. So it almost seems like the guys, Sean Jovi and Dark Fire, are going to have to just fight it out and
It'll
mano a
have a
mano.
clean match. So
Hey, you know what? That's the best way it goes. You know what? Let it be clean. May the best man win, and we'll figure that all out. But last but not least, I want to turn it over to our reigning, defending, our interstate openweight champion, the man of the hour. He is the champion of all champions. He is the king of kings. He is obviously the king of the mountain. His name is James Marshall, and he's the unhinged James Marshall. And Mr. Marshall, I turn it over to you. I want to give you any closing thoughts, anything you want to plug, share, say, and I can't thank you enough for giving us the opportunity to speak with you here tonight on Sportswire Radio and the first of many, many appearances. So I turn it over to you, my friend, and fire away.
I could thank WCE management for actually putting this whole thing together. I could thank Nicholas Crenson for actually bringing me on board to this little project. Who would have thought? One full year of this, and look where we're at. Look where we're at right now. Who would have thought we got this far? I'd like to thank the WCE fans, because without the fans, there's no WCE. And I also like to shout out to my girlfriend, who may be or may not be watching this, but yeah, and we're expecting my first child around this Thanksgiving.
Congratulations.
Yep. Thank you. And I love you, babe.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And that's all I have to say. Just a lot of thank yous. Can't thank you enough. Thank you, Tom.
Well, I appreciate that, but certainly congratulations on the baby, and certainly what timing there. Thanksgiving, boy, certainly you say anytime you're going to have a kid, right? And you say, well, all right, I'll take it one day, but you got it Thanksgiving. So certainly you'll be cutting a turkey and having a football game on in the background, and you'll be having a baby. So you're going to certainly be a busy man. On top of that, of course, having the WCE championship on your shoulders. So you are a very, very busy man, but certainly it has been a tremendous honor. I want to thank Adonis Felios for the kind words. Thanks for putting WCE on the map. No, it's these individuals right here who've put it on the map. It's the fans of WCE. It's the management. It's the people each and every single day that support this company that have done it. The hard work is paying off. And that's why before we go, ladies and gentlemen, you need to go to WCEheat.com. You need to make sure, again, subscribe on the YouTube page, Wrestling Championship Entertainment. Also, again, on Facebook, because this is a company that we're going to be speaking about a lot more here on Sportswire Radio as we are rounding home. August 27th, Blaze of Glory Day 1. September the 10th, Blaze of Glory Day 2. So, and Fight or Fright 2 is right around the corner as well. So a lot going on here. And Adonis says you got a new Marshall. Congratulates James Marshall. So yeah, that kind of does make sense. You got a new Marshall. Congratulates James Marshall. I was thinking of certainly a good line or two to say, but all that as well. But in the meantime, if you do get a chance after we're off the air, I know what I'm doing is watching Spirit in the Sky because we got a lot to catch up to. Boy, am I excited about that. I cannot wait. And I am a late night owl. I don't sleep, and I got a lot more reasons why now to have no sleep till Spirit in the Sky. Forget about the Beastie Boys, no sleep till Brooklyn. It's going to be no sleep until we watch the full Spirit in the Sky. But if you are on sportnarium.com/player, I want to thank you, and you'll go back to your regularly scheduled programming here in a little while. And if you are also on our Facebook page at Sportswire Radio and at my personal page, Tom Brice, I thank you for tuning in. We'll be back here again tomorrow night, 8 p.m. British Standard Time with the unforgettable Andre Decker. And we'll also be back now Friday night with a 1-2 combo because we're going to have on the scenario Nathan Gunn, who's getting ready for his huge match against Nick Cutter and the Wrecking Crew from the LWF, kind of almost like a number one contenders match in the LWF. So I'm excited to have this scenario Nathan Gunn and also excited to have one now. We're going to break it. We are going to have Mr. Sportswire himself, the lawman Kyle Kennedy. He is going to be talking about the stipulation in nonstop action wrestling where now he'll be facing Connor Cage for a right to win the world-class championship. So thank you very much for Mr. Sportswire coming on. And Adonis says till next time. Well, there'll be a next time real soon. But I want to thank everybody here tonight that is tuned in to hear Kraven Rage, the rule of the R, the reigning defending Universal Grand Slam Wisconsinite champion, the #1 contender, and the Spirit in the Sky Rumble winner. That is the Psycho Wolf, Nicholas Crenson, who will be in the ring with a 30-minute Iron Man match. Whoever gets the most pinfalls or submissions wins that Interstate Openweight Championship that is held by the unhinged James Marshall. Thank you for everybody for tuning in. I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager here of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Brice. Good night, and we'll be back here tomorrow afternoon and evening on Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station.